I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Hello, Wolfpack listeners. I'm going to repeat something that I repeated during last Monday's episode because it bears repeating. So here goes. For me, and I'm sure for a lot of you, every day is a struggle. But I'm going to speak for myself, and if you, the listener, align with what I'm saying and you understand what I'm saying, then you get it. I wake up every day, I go over what I need to accomplish that day, and then I realize somewhere at the start of the day, holy crap, this country is so screwed up. We are in a downward spiral, heading into a very bleak direction because of this piece of garbage sitting in the White House. And what makes it worse, and I'm stating the obvious, the amount of supporters who still embrace Trump with ridiculous love and blindfolds on. It's as if they've been brainwashed, drank some elixir that rewires their synapses in their brain. Now, how anyone can embrace a man who hates free speech, hates women, hates minorities, and wants to control the United States and the world is beyond me. Yet they're there. Some of them are our family members. Some of them are our friends. People we thought had a brain. People we thought who knew better. People we believed had common sense. And each time we read the online comments of these supporters of Trump, or see their memes they post, or see their videos, we just look, stare, shake our heads, roll our eyes, and wonder how did they get this far down the rabbit hole? What demon is possessing these people to go above and beyond to show this much idol worshiping to a guy? And the reason why I use the word guy, Trump's not a man. He's a guy who doesn't give a flying fuck about anyone except himself. I ask myself constantly why we're in this situation. And how the hell do we get out of it? Oh, that's right. 70 plus million people voted for this lunatic with his extreme ideas into office. Again. That's how we got there. Now, with that being said, with all the people who listen to my podcast, I ask you this question. Why the hell haven't you joined Wolf, the organization? Did you know about this? And if you did, do you care? Wolf is for people who are against dictatorship, people who are against fascism. If that describes you, join wolf.org. You actually have to type that into your browser, joinwolf.org. Not just wolf, not just wolf.org, but joinwolf.org. Very easy, people. I expect to see more of you become members. It's free. This is a direct challenge to everyone listening right now. If you're not a member, why not? No excuse. Like I said, it's free. It's fast to join. It's easy. Why aren't you a member? You can't come up with one excuse to tell me why you haven't joined yet. We have over 100 members now inside of only 2 weeks. Please add your voice to our membership. Joinwolf.org. Okay, here we go. Let's start with something that should surprise absolutely no one who's been awake for the past decade. Donald Trump's approval rating with independent voters has hit a new low ahead of the State of the Union coming up Tuesday night, dropping into the mid-30s in the latest polling. And honestly, the only shocking part is that it took this long. Independent voters aren't a mystery box. They aren't political unicorns wandering the countryside. They're voters who tend to have a functioning internal alarm system. And right now, that alarm system is going off like somebody left toast in the toaster too long and then walked away from the kitchen. What you're seeing isn't just a polling blip, it's pressure. It's the slow, grinding realization among voters in the middle that the constant chaos isn't background noise anymore. It's structural, it's baked in. And whether you support Trump, tolerate Trump, or just feel politically exhausted by Trump, the one thing independent voters tend to hate most is instability. They want boring competence. They want predictability. They want to wake up in the morning without wondering what fresh five-alarm political fire is already burning before coffee, before the markets open, before the rest of the country even gets its shoes on. Because here's the part that doesn't get said out loud nearly enough. Most voters in the middle aren't ideological thrill seekers. They aren't waking up every morning craving another round of political cage match theater. They've got jobs. They've got mortgages like us. They've got kids, parents, deadlines, and about 14 other things competing for their attention before lunch. What they tend to want from the people running the country isn't fireworks. It's steadiness. It's the basic, almost boring confidence that somebody somewhere actually has. Both hands on the controls and isn't treating the cockpit like a reality show set. And this is where the ground starts to shift. Because the Trump political brand that has always run on disruption and smashes the norms and blows up the system and then punches the establishment in the face, that's starting to get to independent voters as well as the rest of us. That energy works great when people feel the system is rigged and somebody needs to flip the table. It works a lot less well when voters start to feel like the table flipping never stops. And now the dishes are breaking, the floor is getting slippery, and nobody in the room seems particularly interested in grabbing a mop. Independent voters historically are the political weather vane in this country. They aren't always right. They aren't always consistent. But when they start edging away in noticeable numbers, campaigns notice, donors notice, and most importantly, nervous politicians who read polling crosstabs at 2 in the morning definitely notice. Because independent voters are often the difference between a comfortable win and a very uncomfortable election night. And right now that gap is starting to get people's attention, whether they admit it out loud or not. Now, does one approval rating drop for Trump decide the future? No. Politics isn't that tidy. Numbers move, news cycles shift, voters get distracted by the next shiny object flying across their screens. But what this does signal is something deeper, and more important, the fatigue is real. The constant drama that once energized part of the electorate is starting to wear thin with voters who just want the country to feel like it's on stable footing again, and not lurching from one self-inflicted headache to the next. And that's the through line you can't ignore. Whether we're talking about court fights, policy whiplash, or the broader tone of political life, the sense that the ground keeps shifting under our feet is what makes independent voters especially twitchy. They don't like permanent turbulence. They don't like governing by adrenaline spike. And right now, the numbers are starting to reflect that discomfort in a way that should have both parties paying very close attention. You lose the independent voters, and that says a hell of a lot. Judge Aileen Cannon. Yeah, that judge. Aileen, I know nothing about the law, and I'm going to protect Trump any chance I get. Cannon is back in the news again. You know you're in strange territory when a major legal development drops, and the reaction across half the country is in shock. It's a long, tired, here we go again. Judge Aileen Cannon has now blocked the release of the special counsel report on Donald Trump's handling of classified documents. And if it feels like this story keeps finding new ways to stall right when the sunlight is about to hit it, you're not imagining things. From the outside, this is exactly the kind of moment that makes people stop mid-sentence and start looking a whole lot closer at what is actually happening in the courtroom. Now, yes, on paper, this is a procedural move. Judges issue orders, courts manage timing. Nobody serious is claiming every ruling they don't like equals corruption. That's not how the system works. But what people are noticing, and noticing fast, is the pattern. Delay, pause, slow the clock. Sounds familiar with Donald Trump? Of course it does. Just enough friction so the public never quite gets a clean look at what investigators actually found. One time you might shrug it off. When it keeps happening, people start to raise their eyebrows. And that matters because this case was never just about boxes sitting in a room somewhere at Mar-a-Lago. At its core, this hits something voters understand without needing a law degree. The rules are supposed to apply evenly, not selectively, not based on who you are or how much political gravity you carry. Even folks who are completely burned out on partisan food fights still have a very sensitive radar for anything that starts to look like one set of rules for the powerful and another set for everybody else. Now let's keep this grounded. Blocking the release of a report does not rewrite whatever evidence exists. The facts are the facts, but transparency is the oxygen of public trust. And every time information gets bottled up or slowed down by another layer of legal molasses, confidence takes a hit. Not all at once, not in some dramatic explosion. It just wears down. And once that erosion starts, it's very hard to reverse. This is also why this moment lands heavier than it might have a few years ago. Voters already feel like the political ground has been shifting under their feet for a long time now. So when something like this happens, it doesn't land in isolation. It drops into an environment where trust is already thin and patience is already running short. That is why rulings like this travel far beyond legal circles and straight into the broader political conversation. Does this one decision by Cannon decide the whole case? Of course not. The legal system moves slowly, sometimes painfully so. But what it absolutely does do is feed a perception problem that is already alive and well. When the public keeps seeing delay stacked on delay in a case this visible, it reinforces the growing sense that the system itself is struggling to move cleanly when the stakes are highest. And that's something you can't ignore. In a moment when voters are already uneasy about stability and consistency, anything that even hints at selective friction inside the legal process is going to land harder than it used to be. Not because every ruling is automatically suspect, but because public trust, once it starts thinning out, doesn't magically bounce back. And right now, fair or not, this latest move is not doing much to quiet those concerns. My bottom line, I ask you, the listener, why the hell is Judge Cannon still a judge? And finally, I truly hope no American Wolfpack listeners are in Mexico right now. Americans being told to shelter in place in parts of Mexico should get your attention fast. This latest explosion of chaos came after Mexican security forces killed El Mencho, the head of the CJNG, one of the most dangerous cartels in the hemisphere. And almost immediately the backlash lit up. Vehicles burning, roads blocked, gunfire reports spreading across multiple states. That's what cartel retaliation looks like when you take the top predator off the board. And this wasn't some calm, orderly advisory people politely complied with. Videos coming out of the region of Mexico showed tourists and American visitors moving fast, ducking indoors, clearing out of public areas as the situation turned volatile. When you start seeing that kind of real-world scramble, not just an alert on a phone screen, that's when you know the security temperature on the ground has jumped several notches. Now here's the piece a lot of people are skating past. Yes, Mexican forces led the operation, but this wasn't done in a vacuum. U.S. intelligence agencies helped provide targeting support for the mission. So when the retaliation cycle spun up and Americans in parts of Mexico were suddenly being told to shelter in place, that was the real-world reminder that in today's security environment, these operations don't stay neatly contained inside national borders anymore. And that's where the broader instability argument comes in, whether Trump's supporters like hearing it or not. Trump has built his entire governing brand on disruption and unpredictability, keeps allies guessing, rattle institutions, treat long-standing guardrails like they're optional. Now that may play well in domestic political theater, but internationally it creates a more jittery operating environment when serious security actions unfold. Because leadership sets the temperature. When the United States projects steady, consistent pressure with clear expectations, regional actors tend to calculate more carefully. When the signal coming out of Washington is volatility and constant friction, the system loses some of that built-in dampening effect. And in a hotter system, when a major cartel figure gets taken out with U.S. intelligence in the mix, the blowback risk for Americans in that region goes up. Not because Trump controls cartels, because the overall environment is more combustible. And look at the chain reaction here. Major cartel boss killed. Intelligence cooperation involved. Retaliation erupts across multiple Mexican states. Americans warned to shelter in place. That's not theory. That's the real-world ripple effect of how tightly wound the regional security picture has become. No, this single event doesn't rewrite the entire map. Serious analysis means keeping your feet on the ground. But stack enough of these moments together, and a pattern starts to emerge that should make policymakers a lot less comfortable than they appear on television. The world right now is running hotter. The margins are thinner. And when leadership treats instability like a branding strategy, the shockwaves travel farther when something big blows up just south of our border. So don't brush this off to just another headline scrolling by our eyes. When Donald Trump turns unpredictability into a governing philosophy, the ripple effects don't stay inside campaign rallies or cable panels. They show up in a world that's already running hot, where operations just across our border can trigger fast retaliation and real shelter-in-place warnings for Americans on the ground. A world gone mad. In an environment this tense, chaos at the top isn't strength. It's added risk. And right now, that chaos has a name, and it's sitting in the Oval Office. I'm here, and hopefully you feel I provide you, the listener, with insights. I provide you with news, with no garbage, no spin, no fake facts. I'm stressed out and I'm tired, but I continue. And all I ask from you is your support via email or text wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. wolfpacktalks@gmail. Please do me the courtesy and get back to me. And to be completely transparent to all of you listening right now, very few of you have sent me your comments in the last several months. Very few of you have sent me an email voicing your opinions. And that's very disappointing to me. That tells me either you don't care, or you listen to the podcast, but you don't feel it's important enough to send me a message with your opinions. And that honestly confuses me because I'm trying to find out what I'm doing wrong if I can't elicit your responses. And also, one last time to everyone listening, joinwolf.org. Type in joinwolf.org and you'll find out more info about it. This will take you and show you more information, and then you can make a decision if you'd like to sign up. This is separate from the podcast. This is completely different from the Wolfpack membership of the podcast, the listeners, who some of you are already a member of. If you have any questions about Wolf, the organization, email me. Don't just say, hey, great job, Jeff, and pat me on the back. Joinwolf.org. I truly expected all of you who are listening to have already done that. I'll be back again Wednesday. We'll talk about the State of the Union from Donald the Delusional One. I pride myself in doing this podcast without bullshit, without fake anger, without phony headlines, like a lot of the other podcasters do. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Wolfpack listeners, at a time when truth is getting buried under lies, and too many of the wrong voices are telling you what to think, it's time to take a stand. Be skeptical. Question everything. Don't lose hope. And most of all, stay alert.